Hey everybody, it is late. It's like midnight, and I'm still trying to grade your discussion 4. I'm trying to get ahead of it before discussion 5 happens, and I have to grade that, or get to grade that. I'm making this video because I have run across 2 things grading your discussion 4 that warrants conversation, and so let's just dig in. All right, so first of all, I want to explain a technique that started with Dr. Farui, who actually was the first person to make this class, and I've made a lot of changes in the assignments and stuff, but one of the things that I really like that Dr. Farui did is the way that he set it up to help us understand our own biases. Because whenever you learn something or you come to something that you think is new, you're filtering it through what you already know and your past experiences and what you think about it. But we don't consciously do that, right? That stuff's just in us. So one of the interesting opportunities to learn is to surface your own prior thoughts or biases, things that you are more inclined to think about something than you might have realized. And then learn from people who've been studying it and see how far apart what you thought when you started is with what you are learning from these people. And you don't have to accept everything that they say, actually. You can tell yourself, I accept A and B from what they said, but I'm going to hang on to my C, D, and F because in my experience, that's what's really going on. So maybe for them, wherever they are, that's what they discovered, but not necessarily what I'm experiencing. So I'll give you an example. We're going to be reading an author from South America later in the class, and I think that all of what that author developed was based on the culture and so forth in South America. And so our question is going to be, does this fit for us too? Or are there parts of it that would be valuable to us, but parts of it that in our culture won't work? So in the case of discussion 3 and discussion 4, which discussion 4 built on discussion 3, what we're trying to do with discussion 3 is actually to use it to surface what you already think about what innovation is. So I asked you to pick a program that you thought was innovative, that you've either been a part of or you've heard about. And so to start with, you picked yourself what you thought was an innovative program. So right there we know that there's something about that program that you think is innovative, and that helps us to start thinking about, this is what I think of as innovative. And the second thing I asked you to do in discussion 3 was to identify 2 to 4 elements that you thought made it particularly innovative. So you have now identified, just by picking the project, that this is a project you thought was innovative. And then in that particular question that I asked, you actually pulled out some things that you thought made it innovative. So without thinking about what Schumpeter said or what you read when you looked up the term innovation, you've already identified what inside of you think is innovative, right? You must have had some reason to think the program you picked was innovative, even if you didn't define it, you just felt like this is innovative. But then I actually asked you to look in it and figure out, why did you think that? What are those 2 to 4 elements? All right, so I didn't tell you that's what we were doing, that we're outing your own biases about what constitutes innovation. But that's basically what you were doing. All right, so now fast forward to discussion 4. I asked you to have a partner or 2. And what I was wanting you to do, which some of you did and some of you didn't, what I was wanting you to do was actually to look at those elements that you picked out that represented innovation to you, at least in that program, and see if there was any overlap. And then talk about your ideas that you each brought to the table about elements of innovation. Now, not all innovations are the same, and some innovations might have one, 3 or 4 elements to it. And in somebody else's innovation, you might have picked out a different number or different things. But still, there might have been overlap, but it was a good opportunity for you to have discussion about which of those things you could all maybe agree on had to be there for innovation. And I'll just give you an example. There were a few of you whose programs utilize technology. So the question then becomes, does technology always have to be there for something to be innovative? And I think the answer is no, but technology could be present in some innovations, but it doesn't have to be. You can think of much simpler innovations that don't require any new technology or any technology at all. So, so what exactly that I had trouble with was that two things. One, some of you studied Schumpeter in your last semester, and so instead of looking at what you pulled out, which the instructions were to look at those 2 to 4 elements that you pulled out, instead of starting with the elements that you all pulled out and asking, do we all agree that these are elements of innovation, or do they have to be there, or is it just for this one? You started with somebody else's idea of what elements to innovation are. Some of you started with Schumpeter because you studied him last semester. Some of you looked up innovation to see where to start, but that was not the instruction. So I don't mind that you looked up innovation, but again, the instructions are given for a very specific reason. In this case, we were trying to uncover our own biases. So, and then some of you struggled because you thought that because the person had pulled out different elements of innovation than you did, that you didn't understand what you were supposed to do. Or in at least one case, somebody told me I didn't think my partner's program was the least bit innovative. So that would have all been something to discuss. What I was hoping you would come up with by the end of the discussion was some short list of something that you all could agree, at least these elements should be in innovation. So I want to tell you 2 things. One is that we're going to do this over and over again. We're going to start a new concept by trying to figure out what you personally already think about the concept in your head. We're going to try to unearth your biases. So if I ask you to do an assignment a particular way, especially when we're just starting a new module or a new unit, please don't try to figure out what I want. Just go with the flow. Go with what I asked you to do. If I said talk about your 2 to 4 elements together, then just that's all you need to do. Because you're going to see that over and over again, the first thing we're going to start with is what do you already think? And then it's going to be, well, what does some other people think? And how do they compare? Do we all pretty much share the same idea? One of the reasons for this is because when you're working in an entire community, you've got a whole lot of people coming to the table to talk about whatever social issue you want to talk about. You all come with different ideas. The first thing you need to understand is where everybody starts and what they think, but also why they think that. And I'm trying to give you an opportunity to model that a little bit in the classroom so that when you get out there, you don't just jump in thinking everybody understands the word innovation or everybody understands social change, or everybody understands, what hunger looks like, whatever it is you're working on, that you understand that people bring different meanings, different experiences, different lenses. So we're going to start everything that way. So please follow instructions. Okay, now I want to tell you a very simple definition of innovation. Or what I mean, not a definition, but a list of elements. I think this is the most small that it can be. You guys picked out a lot of different elements in your conversations, but I'm just going to throw this at you. Innovation is basically doing something in a new way that greatly improves on the outcomes from the old way. And when we're talking about social innovation, also improves the lives of many. So just those things, we're doing something in a new way. That new way is an improvement over the old way, and it improves people's lives. Okay, so if just those things were there, something new, something that improves and improves for many, I think we would have at a minimum those elements in innovation. All right, so again, if you aren't sure you understand what you want from me, don't hesitate to shoot me a note and I will try to explain it. Try to follow the instructions. Don't overthink it. If you feel like it's awkward or odd, it's because this whole class is a little awkward and odd. I'm asking you all kinds of reflective thinking questions. We're trying to look into your heads and your background and your experience and your attitudes and your biases. So yeah, it's probably an odd question. But again, if you're not sure, just shoot me a note so I don't ask you to redo it. So anyway, if you did one of those things where you basically looked something up or you went to Schumpeter or you didn't do what I asked you to do, at least go back and ask yourself, look at your own thing again in those 2 to 4 variables and think, what was I thinking? Because I'm trying to give the teacher the answers I think she wants, but really, I want you to give yourself an understanding of what's in your own head. All right, there you go, and I will see you on Canvas.